The 2003 Teen Titans cartoon was one of my favorites growing up. An adaptation of the classic DC Comics series, primarily the Marv Wolfman George Perez comic from the 80s, it's one of those shows that I can really say I grew up with. I'd already been a fan of a lot of other animated DC Comics shows around that same time, so it was already up my alley, but Teen Titans really won me over with its awesome action scenes, the anime influences in its animation style, the compelling season-long story arcs, the intimidating villains, and the pretty careful balance the show manages between some lighthearted comedic moments and some occasionally very dark storylines. And it's one of those shows that I had always meant to talk about on the channel at some point, and trust me, there's a couple of episodes that I really want to focus on specifically somewhere down the line, but for now, why not just use the What If series as an excuse? That's right, it's time to take 5 Teen Titans characters, which is kind of perfect actually, because the team specifically has 5 members exactly, and give them hypothetical Pokemon teams of 4 Pokemon apiece. So heat up some pizza, grab your communicators, and don't touch that remote, you know, assuming you can find it, as I tell you what I think it'd be like if Teen Titans characters were Pokemon trainers. And just in case you haven't seen Teen Titans yet and you wanted to go back and watch it at some point, big time heckin' spoilers ahead! Let's start things off with one of the emotional anchors of the team, Starfire. Voiced by Hynden Walsh, Starfire is kind-hearted, cheerful, and very friendly, always willing to try and make friends with new people, and even sometimes being polite to her enemies. You know, right before kicking their ass with her immense strength and with her various powers of ultraviolet energy projection. As someone who wasn't born on Earth, a native to the far distant world of Tamaran, Starfire does tend to be a little bit naive when it comes to the planet's customs and a bit confused when it comes to certain sayings.
Hey, hot alien girl, you digging the scene?
I did not know we were supposed to bring shovels.
But she's also quite perceptive, and is a great source of companionship and wisdom for both her fellow Titans and others around the world, something that her teammates are very grateful for. You know, at least on the inside. To start off Starfire's Pokemon team, we'll go with something of an aesthetic pick and give her a Pokemon based on an alien life form much like herself, BEM, whose name is a reference to the abbreviation BEM, or Bug-Eyed Monster, an old convention of the sci-fi genre used to depict aliens as grotesque creatures with huge eyes. I honestly just wanted an excuse to mention that because I thought it was interesting, because, you know, I doubt that anyone would really look at Starfire and call her grotesque. Unless, you know, you asked Starfire herself when she was going through that weird transformation in the episode, Transformation. Next up, I'm gonna give her a Sylveon, whose Pokedex entries state that its ribbon-like feelers can be used to quell conflict and fights, a great reference for how Starfire is often the one to quell any petty squabbling and keep her teammates on the same page. So much to the point that, when she gets flung into the future in How Long Is Forever, she discovers that the Titans have long since disbanded, with her disappearance at the start of that episode being what ultimately led to their split. After that, let's give her a Beware, a Pokemon who always tries to show affection with hugs, but doesn't really know its own strength. So much to the point that its Pokedex entries claim that a hug from Beware could lead to horrible injuries at best and outright death at worst. Something that seems like a solid pick for someone who also tends to crush people with hugs. And lastly, and this might seem like a bit of a weird pick, but just stick with me here for a second, Guzzlord. Not only could this be another reference to her alien origins, with Guzzlord being an Ultra Beast, a Pokemon-like monster from another dimension, but also Guzzlord eats just about anything and is always hungry, which could be a great reference to Starfire's, rather voracious eating habits. Plus, if we're being honest about it, her having a Guzzlord wouldn't even be the first time she's cared for a monstrous creature with a destructive appetite. But hey, speaking of beasts, that sounds like a perfectly flimsy transition to start talking about Beast Boy. Voiced by Greg Sipes, Beast Boy is an animal shapeshifter with a litany of different creatures at his disposal, everything from the tiniest rodents to the biggest and most ferocious dinosaurs. Beast Boy often serves as the comic relief of the group, always trying to crack a joke or pull off a hilarious prank, often with varying degrees of success. He's pretty lighthearted and carefree a lot of the time, but also has a tendency to be pretty immature and not always think things through, and if we're being honest, he's not exactly the brains of the operation.
Bring it on.
Dude, it is totally brunged. Ranged. Ooh, bad grammar. That ought to scare him.
However, when push comes to shove, Beast Boy knows when to get serious, and he's proven several times to be an invaluable member of the Titans, no doubt drawing on his experience as a member of the Doom Patrol, and has proven to be the difference maker against many of the Titans' greatest enemies. To start off Beast Boy's Pokemon team, I'll give him a Kecleon, as its color change ability could be a good reference to Beast Boy's animal shapeshifting. Now, full disclosure, I did also consider Ditto for this spot, but I just feel like Kecleon fits better aesthetically, not only being based on an actual animal, but also being green, much like Beast Boy's skin. Speaking of which, let's keep up with the animal theme and give him a Whimsicott, a Pokemon that appears to draw some inspiration from the so-called vegetable lamb of Tartary, a mythical sheep-growing plant used to explain the production of cotton during the Middle Ages. Of course, the main reason I wanted to give him a Whimsicott was basically just because it can have the ability Prankster, perfect for someone who's always trying to crack jokes, even if those jokes don't always land.
Why are ducks so funny? Because they're always quacking jokes.
Pull over. I think I'm gonna be sick.
Next up, let's give him a Lycanroc, specifically its Dusk form, which, according to the Pokedex, has the calm disposition of the Midday form, but also the aggression of the Midnight form, much like how Beast Boy himself is typically pretty friendly and easygoing, but also has a tendency to be very aggressive when he's pushed over the edge. Also, Lycanroc being based on a wolf could be a good callback to Beast Boy's Werebeast form that we first saw in Season 3, making him very strong and ridiculously agile, but in turn making him much more feral and robbing him of a lot of his self-control. And to round out his team, let's give Beast Boy a Go-Goat. It fits with the animal theme being based on a goat, and much like Whimsicott, it's also a grass type, which would be perfect for Beast Boy, considering that his many transformations into various animals was likely what drove him to become a vegetarian. Fun fact, BB's voice actor, Greg Sipes, is a vegan himself, and has been since he was 8. And of course, on top of all of that, Go-Goat's design is based on a motorcycle, with the player character in Pokemon X and Y actually being able to ride a Go-Goat in its pre-evolution Skiddo at certain locations in Kalos, which is perfect for Beast Boy's rather intense desire to get himself a moped, an obsession that actually drove him to not only get a day job, but, when all other options failed him, specifically getting a job at a fast food joint that supposedly only served meat products. I mean, yeah, it did turn out that the place was just a front for an alien invasion by a race of tofu aliens, but hey, if there's one thing a vegetarian knows how to deal with, it's a delicious meat-free substitute. But now I want to shift the focus to one of the more reserved members of the Titans, and arguably the most individually powerful, Raven. Voiced by Tara Strong, who's one of those voice actors who's been in about a billion other things you might remember from your childhood, Raven was my favorite member of the team growing up. Yes, the mid-2000s emo kid like the dark and mysterious goth character tried to act surprised. Raven is a quiet, brooding, mysterious girl who often keeps to herself, both emotionally and physically, spending a great deal of her time locked away in her room. But there is a good reason for all this isolation. See, Raven constantly needs to meditate in order to keep her powers in check, as they're largely fueled by her emotions, and letting her feelings run wild out of her control could also mean some very bad things for those around her, hence why she's not super trusting around new people at first, and she's pretty hesitant to even allow her fellow Titans to get too close. However, Raven's far from cold and emotionless, as she does sometimes show that she has a sense of fun, and is always ready with a sarcastic comeback for Beast Boy's jokes, and beyond all of that, in spite of how grim and gloomy her demeanor comes off as, Robin goes so far as to describe her as the most hopeful person he knows. And considering her family history, the fact that she has any kind of hope for a decent life at all says a lot. I think it's fair to start off Raven's Pokemon team with a pretty straightforward aesthetic pick, Corviknight, a Pokemon that obviously takes design cues from Raven's. After that, we'll go with a Hatterene, a Pokemon who not only takes design cues from spellcasters and witches, perfect for someone whose powers are based heavily in magic, but also Hatterene's entire evolutionary line is all about suppressing her emotions for your own good, much like how Raven herself has to meditate constantly to help keep her emotions, and by proxy her powers, under control. something that Starfire had to learn the hard way when she and Raven swapped bodies in the episode Switched. Next up, I think Raven would have an Absol, a Pokemon who lives in isolation due to its powers earning it an unfair reputation as a Doombringer, perfect for someone who closes themselves off a lot due to not wanting to let people get too close for their own good. And lastly, let's round out her team with a Mimikyu, a Pokemon that's so protective of its makeshift Pikachu disguise because the people who do see its true form would literally be scared to death, much like how Raven is so adamant about keeping to herself because she's petrified of what would happen to her friends if they knew what she really was. Someone who's terrible at making pancakes. Oh, and also the living magical key to her demonic father's full-scale invasion of the Earth, but, you know, I think we know which one of those is actually worse. Next up, let's talk about the team's chief technician, Cyborg. Voiced by Kari Payton, Cyborg, as the name implies, is half man, half machine, loaded with all of the power and durability of a robot, along with the willpower and determination of a man, and he spends most of his time either working out of the gym, playing Game Station, or kicking bad guy butt. Highly intelligent and knowledgeable about all things tech, Cyborg is responsible for the vast majority of the Titan's inventions, being the one to design Titan's tower security system, the Titan's communication devices, and even his very own car. And Cyborg is just as capable on the battlefield as he is in the workshop, utilizing his cybernetically enhanced strength to add some raw power to the team, and making great use of his built-in sonic cannon to put some serious hurt on whoever threatens Jump City. Friendly, outgoing, fun-loving, and cool, with an appetite that's second only to Starfire, Cyborg is a fantastic member of the group, proving so many times that he's so much more than just the sum of his parts. See, cause it's like that one episode, you know, the sum of his parts, and cause, you know, his robot parts don't necessarily limit.
A joke's not funny when you have to explain it.
No, Steve, what are you doing? This isn't a GX video, man. Just go with the team thing. To start off Cyborg's Pokemon team, let's give him a Machamp, a powerful fighting-type Pokemon who wears a power-regulating belt to keep its true strength in check, which could be a reference to how Cyborg often feels that even his enhanced strength has a cap on it. Although he has shown several times that even those robotic limits aren't quite enough to hold back the power of his human spirit. Next, we'll give him a Passimian, a Pokemon based on a rugby player, something that's a great reference for Cyborg's love of sports and his past as an athlete, before the accident that caused the need for his cybernetic augmentation. After that, there is no way that I can make a Pokemon team for Cyborg without giving him a Rotom, a living Pokemon that inhabits various machines, perfect for someone who also is a combination of a living entity and technology. Not to mention, Rotom's ability to put itself into whatever it takes over could be a callback to how Cyborg often puts a little bit of himself into whatever he makes, most notably the T-Car, something that he made with so much of his own circuitry and tech that it honestly felt like destroying part of himself when he had to destroy the T-Car to save it from overload. And lastly, we'll round out the team with a Metagross, partly as an aesthetic pick for its steel typing, but also for its high intelligence, with the Pokédex noting that it's equivalent to that of a supercomputer, perfect for Cyborg's genius intellect and technological know-how. Bit of a shame then that said intellect doesn't really help with Cyborg's attempts at speaking Spanish in Season 3.
Hola, mi amigo soy nombre el Cyborgo.
I mean, in all fairness to Cyborg, that's still better Spanish than anything I've tried. Only other language I speak is Pig Latin, and adli say igpe atenle usente ili re avhe anime actical pre usisye. And last, but definitely not least, it's the boy wonder turned wannabe solo hero turned leader of the Teen Titans, Robin. Voiced by Scott Menville, the Robin we know in Teen Titans is actually one of several young heroes to take on the Robin mantle throughout the DC universe, with this one being Dick Grayson specifically, the son of the acrobat family, the Flying Graysons, a heritage that Robin puts to great use in his crime fighting, utilizing acrobatics and agility quite often in combat. After breaking away from Batman and going to Jump City, Robin fully intended on working alone, but after a chance encounter with 4 young superpowered people with whom he'd have to work together to help stop an alien invasion, Robin and the others formed the superhero group, the Teen Titans, with Robin assuming the role of the leader. Robin can be fairly brooding, stoic, and serious a lot of the time, which is probably part of why he and Raven get along so well, but he's also had his fair share of comedic moments, and Robin can be a fun-loving guy under the right circumstances. You know, when he's not fighting crime or tracking down villains with borderline stalkerish precision. Robin's dedication to stopping villains like Slade has proven to be both a strength and a weakness, as he obviously cares greatly about saving the city and the people who live in it, but his often one-track-minded determination to do so is sometimes at the detriment to his friends. But at the end of the day, there's no doubt that Robin will do anything and everything to protect the city and the world at large from the forces of evil, and he won't hesitate to throw himself in harm's way to save the people he cares about, just like any good leader would. To start off Robin's Pokemon team, I think it's only fair to give him a Pokemon whose design is partly based on Japanese Robins, Talonflame. It works pretty well as an aesthetic pick due to it being red, but also its high base speed and its signature ability Gale Wings could be good references to his agility and acrobatic prowess. Speaking of which, let's keep with the bird theme for a second and give him a Hawlucha, a flying and fighting type Pokemon that also uses acrobatics in combat like Robin does, and Hawlucha being a fighting type could be a great reference to Robin's vast skills in various martial arts. After that, I'll give him a Klefki, a Pokemon who collects and safeguards various keys for various purposes, which could be a good reference to the litany of tools, weapons, and gadgets that Robin has at his disposal for fighting bad guys and getting out of tough spots. And lastly, I'm gonna go with something that might seem a bit out of left field, but just stick with me for a second. Thievul. See, Thievul's Pokedex entries talk about how it marks potential targets with a scent and then stalks them to strike them when they least expect it, which could be a good reference to how, when he became fixated on stopping the plans of Slade, he became so completely obsessed with finding out any little thing he could, to the point where he crafted an entire criminal persona, Red X, and even fought his own teammates under that guise, all just to get closer to Slade. Not to mention that Thievul has mask-like protrusions around its eyes that actually closely resemble Robin's own mask. You know, the one that he's rarely ever seen without and that just makes him look so cool. So much so that, when Robin goes out on his own for a while in the Season 4 episode The Quest, the rest of the team decides that they're also gonna dress up as Robin, just so they can also look and feel as cool as he does. I mean, honestly, I don't blame him for that. I mean, I even dressed up as Robin once, so I can't really judge. But now I want to hear from you. What Pokemon do you think the Teen Titans would have on their teams? Let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this in the future, share this on your favorite social medias, and ring the bell so you always get notified when I upload. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, friendos.